Good morning, everyone. I'm so happy to have you here with me this morning, and we have a phenomenal guest joining us. You just saw her on the morning show. We're talking about a different topic right now, though. Are you a night owl or are you an early riser? We just talked about this debate on the news not that long ago as this new study came out. So one group has increased risk of heart disease of those two, and Dr. Tamana Singh is going to explain which. She's a cardiologist from the Cleveland Clinic, here to explain what's going on with all of us. Thank you for coming in today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
All right, so who has the advantage, the early risers or the night owls?
Well, based upon this study, I mean, it was a pretty large study based upon the UK Biobank with an average age of individuals of around 57 years. And what they found was that there seems to be an association with elevated cardiovascular risk in those individuals who do sleep a little later, maybe have a late peak rise. And that risk seems to be associated with two particular habits. So variability in sleep or low sleep, as well as smoking, which we know is a big cardiovascular risk factor.
And I know now there's just so many ways in which people can help reduce the use of smoking and that are more accessible to them now, which is amazing. So to be able to eliminate one and or both would be extremely helpful. Now, how do people taper off and really tackle this issue if they are someone who is a night owl?
So I think the first thing to do is kind of assess what kind of night owl you are. The study doesn't really touch upon this, but when I see a lot of individuals coming in with variable schedules in my clinic, particularly nurses who are working overnight shifts or even people working in transportation and whatnot, I think I always ask, what is the rest of your day like? Is it a complete reversal of your circadian rhythm or is it not? And I think the individuals who kind of suffer from the lack of sleep and the quality and the recovery and all of the health benefits you get from sleep are the individuals who are not quite shifted completely. So I think if you're someone who sleeps really late and maybe gets up kind of early to mid to maybe a little bit at late, not getting quality sleep, still pretty active for most of the day, I think that's where we see more of that cardiovascular risk because you are not getting those benefits that you typically get from sleep.
So, and I know there's probably people watching too thinking, well, my job, it is what it is. I can't change my schedule, so what can I do otherwise? And is there really anything else that they can do to assist that?
Yes, oh, definitely. So I think the thing to remember with studies like this is it's just kind of trying to demonstrate an association. Nothing has really been quote unquote proven. Okay. And we have a lot of control over a lot of the risk factors that are associated with cardiovascular disease. And so what I mean by that is if you already know that there's a schedule or something that you can't change, we kind of talked about this, you can only control what you can, right? So we can control what we put into our bodies, the types of foods we eat, we can control the intention we have behind movement practices and exercise. We can certainly address other risk factors. If you are someone who's battling smoking, looking into getting assistance with that. Other things like evaluating your body composition, working on building lean muscle mass. I think all of those things in conjunction can really help reduce your cardiovascular risk and have much greater impact than potentially having this kind of distorted cycle of sleep.
How can we, I know on this list here we're looking at, it says be aware of your blood sugar. Is that something that everyone should be focused on? And I know, people with diabetes, they'll do the prick. They'll see where their blood sugar is. Mm-hmm. Is that something that we could all do as well?
Yeah, I think we all can certainly now start to have more access to seeing what our blood sugar variability is. You may have heard of continuous glucose monitors that are out there. They're little devices that we can attach to our arm that measure our blood sugar variability during the day. In terms of whether or not you would be someone who would benefit from that, I think the first question to always ask yourself is what is my personal medical history and what is my family history? And if you know you're someone who's had issues with blood sugars, you really love your sweets and you love your fats, or you've had issues with body composition or diabetes runs rampant in your family, then it's probably reasonable to take a self-inventory and get a sense of what your blood sugar variability looks like. Again, the intention behind this is not so much to build anxiety and fear or get too caught up in the data, but it's to empower yourself and have agency over your health. And if we have some of those tools, why not?
I love that. It's such a great point you bring up. And I mean, looking at heart disease is still, am I correct in saying, the #1 killer in America? Mm-hmm. It's so as a whole, what else should we be looking, even if, you know, sleep is not an issue for you, but there's other things going on, what are the main things we need to be looking out for?
So if you haven't really seen a doctor or a general practitioner, I think the first step is to get in and just get a full inventory. So I typically recommend get a check of your cholesterol levels, get a check of what your blood sugar control over 3 months or a hemoglobin A1C looks like. Get a sense of what other genetically mediated factors like a lipoprotein little a, it's an independently known risk factor that can elevate your cardiovascular risk. Get a sense and some input into what your nutrition looks like. Sometimes it's helpful to meet with a nutritionist or a registered dietitian to see whether or not you're getting an adequate number of macronutrients, namely protein. I know protein's a big buzzword these days.
Oh, it is, that's for sure.
But because we do need protein, and we can get quality plant-based protein as well. It doesn't have to always be animal products. So if you start there, check your iron levels if you're a woman, if you're menstruating, if you're a young athlete and you're feeling fatigued, get a sense of what your thyroid function is. There's a whole host of kind of general lab work that can give you that inside inventory, but don't forget your mindset as well. You know, mental health is part of our physical health, and if you're already noticing that there may be some behavioral things that you want to talk about and consider, this is the best way to do it.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much for coming in
My
and addressing
pleasure.
all of that this morning. Love to have you back sometime to discuss
Always
this
happy
more.
to come back.
Thank you, Dr. Singh.